079687S. That is the DOT number for the Main Street crossing at milepost 104.25 on the BNSF Mendota sub in Princeton, Illinois. This crossing sees about 20 to 30 trains daily as of 2025 and has seen one accident, which occurred on July 15, 2019, resulting in $2,500 of damages, but thankfully no fatalities. This crossing has quite a history. Going back to the 1970s, this crossing likely had a pair of WRS-era signals from the 1950s, plus a single Federal Signal Company pedestrian gate on the northeast side. These likely would have had WRS bases, 8-inch WRS lights, WRS gate mechanisms, and a WRS mechanical bell. In the late 70s or in the 1980s, Burlington Northern decided to replace these signals with new WCH-era signals, featuring 12x20-inch lights, WCH gate mechanisms, and a WCH or possibly Federal Signal mechanical bell. In this overhead shot from the ICC, you can see how the crossing was set up in the late 90s. You had the two WCH signals, plus the one Federal Signal pedestrian gate on the northeast side, but surprisingly there was no pedestrian gate on the southwest side, even though there does appear to be a sidewalk going to the north. However, going south, the sidewalk seems to kind of merge a little bit with the road. Here's another view from an Amtrak train in 2001, and by this point, the lone bell, which was on the southern signal, was replaced with a General Signals e-bell. I'm not entirely sure if there was a pedestrian gate mounted to the northern signal or not. It's hard to tell from the videos and from the satellite imagery. This setup wouldn't last too much longer, however, as by May 2001, the crossing was completely rehabilitated. The sidetrack on the north side of the main line was removed, and the northern signal was moved closer. A brand new relay bungalow was installed in the southwest quadrant, replacing the original concrete bungalow as seen here. At the same time, two brand new cantilevers were installed in front of the existing road signals. Both of the new cantilevers were from Harman and featured 12x20-inch SafeTran incandescents. The road signals had their front lights and side lights removed, and the northern signal had a second bell added to it. At the same time, the WCH gate mechanism was replaced with a USNS one. The southern signal, on the other hand, kept the original WCH mechanism for some reason. On the southwest side of the crossing, a new sidewalk was added, and in the process, a brand new pedestrian gate was finally installed here. This little signal features a USNS base, USNS Model 95 Style 1 gate mechanism, and a 4-inch Ricoh gate light. Oddly enough though, instead of using the gate mechanism like a normal road signal would, BNSF instead opted to use the secondary gate mount, which would normally be used for pedestrian gates on road signals, but instead here they're using it as a pedestrian gate on a dedicated pedestrian gate. Not sure what BNSF's rationale for doing it like this was, but it is kind of cool to see. On the northeast side of the crossing, the old Federal Signal pedestrian gate was also removed. However, instead of using a new USNS pedestrian gate like the southwest side, this instead decided to use an older setup. This gate featured a WRS base and a WCH Style 3 gate mechanism with no gate light. The WCH mechanism likely came from the northern signal after that one got replaced with a USNS gate mechanism. Why BNSF decided to do this little swaparoo instead of just installing a USNS pedestrian gate like the southwest side? I have no idea. This crossing just became a mishmash of different signals. Essentially, the west side of the crossing became all USNS mechanisms, while the east side was all WCH mechanisms. And this setup would persist for the next 20 years. At some point, both of the e-bells became GS Type 2 e-bells, but I don't have an exact date of when that happened. The next major change was in 2011, when all of the incandescent lights on the crossing were upgraded to dialight ball LEDs. The same frames would be carried over. All of the gate lights were also upgraded to LED, if they weren't LED already prior. The next change came in 2015, when both of the crossbucks on each of the cantilevers were replaced, and blue DOT tags were added. By the early 2020s, all of the gates had gotten restriped with the newer block-style striping, except for the rear of the northern signal's pedestrian gate. I'm not sure why this one was left alone. In April 2023, signs started appearing that major work was about to happen here. a new bungalow was spotted near the Amtrak station. And by May, the new bungalow was installed in the northwest quadrant. At the same time, 2 brand new road signals and 2 brand new pedestrian gates were seen back at the Amtrak station. BNSF was about to turn this mishmash setup into a complete Siemens setup. By May 22nd, 4 brand new foundations for the pedestrian gates were seen in all 4 quadrants. And by June 5th, all 4 foundations were installed and ready to go. On June 13th, 2 additional pedestrian gates were seen off to the side. However, these ones also featured bells, meaning that this crossing would go from 2 bells up to 4 bells. By June 28th, the new pedestrian gates were set next to the crossing in preparation for them to be installed. The very next day, the new pedestrian gates were up and in service. All 4 pedestrian gates featured Siemens bases, Siemens gate mechanisms, and 4-inch Ricoh LED gate lights. On the northeast and southwest quadrants, the pedestrian gates there featured GS Type 3 e-bells, again turning this 2-bell install into a 4-bell install. Meanwhile, the road signals were still the same, however, they had their pedestrian gates removed, just leaving the mounts in place. This was clearly meant to just be a temporary setup, as around July 16th, the new road signal masts were also installed and activated. These new masts featured Siemens bases, Siemens gate mechanisms, 2 12x24-inch Satran frames with dial-light ball LEDs, 4-inch Ricoh LED gate lights, GSI gate savers, and GS Type 3 e-bells. However, if you compare to the pictures while they were on the ground by the Amtrak station, you'll notice a couple of minor changes. Both the crossbucks and the new DOT tags were removed, rendering all 4 of those signs completely useless. The new DOT tags didn't even go onto the cantilevers. Instead, they left the old DOT tags in place. But with that, the mishmash setup of the early 2000s was turned into a newer, slightly less mishmash setup with the new Siemens gate masts and the 2000s era Harman cantilevers. Not sure why BNSF didn't opt to replace the cantilevers, but I'm guessing since they were still relatively new, they figured they could leave them in place. And as of 2025, this still remains the current setup for this crossing. Thank you all for watching. If you'd like to see more pictures of this crossing, click the link in the description for the page for this crossing on Mike's Crossing site.